Come on in, welcome to my home. I thought I'd do a gardening recap because, well, the nights are getting shorter and, well, it should be getting colder. However, it really isn't. But my plants are saying, yeah, we're sort of done. I mean, they've done a good job this season. They've been attacked by deer. We've had long stretches of zero rain. But now they're tired and it's time for them to go to bed or just go away. And I wanted to look back and see what things I did right, what things I need to learn from, and what I'm going to do differently next year. And one of the first things that I think everybody should look at is their infrastructure, because this is one of those things that people always overlook. It's really easy to want to go out and get a whole bunch of planters and those sort of things, and you have to remember, I am living in a condo, so I have my mom's condo and my condo. We can only have planters, so we have the planters to deal with, and if you have planters and you want to go and get a whole lot of plants and put them in pots, and then you have to water them. And I mean water them a lot, and that can be its own hassle. So what I did is I went for an irrigation system. If you're curious what I use, I have that listed down below in the description. But I originally, this year, just like I have in the past, I originally put it on a timer and there was a problem. Okay, if you know anything about irrigation systems, when you set an irrigation system up, no matter how good you are or how wonderful, you can still have blowouts with it. It can still be pressurized to the point where it kicks on and one of the tubes pops out and you have water gushing everywhere. And what I found was, if I put it on a timer, I would let the timer go off and wouldn't go out and check on it while it was running. Yeah, that's not so great. So for this is me, I mean, you might be completely differently. What I've found is that I like to turn on my hose bib, turn that on and then let that run while I walk the line to see how everything is going. And if it's going really well, I can let it run. I set mine to run, I set a timer and let it run for about 7 minutes. 7 minutes later, I turn it off and we are all good. Now that being said, I've learned a couple things. When I originally got this system, it only had a short run of 1/2-inch tubing. And like the year before, or the original year that I did this, I did it off of 1/4-inch tubing, and that was way too small for the amount of distance that I needed to go. So this year I did 1/2-inch tubing, but I didn't have enough to go as far as I should have. So next year I am going to add more 1/2-inch tubing so that way I can branch off that 1/2-inch tubing and have more of distribution of water. Yeah, that sounds about right. So it'll be much easier. I have all that stuff here in the garage ready to go for next year. And that's part of the infrastructure. But the other part of the infrastructure is I always make sure to check my pots and see how they're doing. This year, my pots that I have outside, I have the three big containers, which were actually recycling bins. They are doing really wonderfully. All the plants are loving it. I have my huge big pot that my tomato is in, and a couple other smaller pots, and everything is doing really well. But you want to check them to make sure that they aren't breaking down in the sunlight. You want to check and make sure that your tubing is not breaking down in the sunlight. This year I did get some things so I can leave my tubes out by the tubes, I mean the irrigation tubing. I can leave it out by sealing it up, disconnecting it from my water faucet and sealing it up for the winter. It should be okay. It's not like a sprinkler where you have to worry about it bursting the pipes, because what generally happens with tubing or like irrigation systems is the fact that they have emitter holes. So as the water expands, usually those emitter holes will let the water expand throughout them and not be that much of a problem. I might pull them in this year. It just depends how cold it's going to get, because right now, usually, and I've said usually enough now, right now we should have cold weather. We should be getting down into lows, I guess, in the 40s, and our lowest so far has been 56. So that's a bit different. But anyway, the infrastructure of all of that is working well. I am collecting now all the compost that I am making and putting it into a bin so that way next year when it comes time to refresh the soil, I can refresh that. Now what's interesting is you hear this all the time. A lot of people are talking about every year you should refresh all the soil in all of your pots so that way it has new soil. However, if you live in like a condo situation where realistically that's not feasible, so what I'm doing is I'm collecting all of that compost. I will be adding land and sea compost, and then I'll also be adding biotone starter fertilizer next year. When I start all of my plants, I haven't done my clean out because, well, we're still growing. Some of them are still growing quite well. So I'll add all of that to my gardening mix, probably taking out some of the soil so I can add the new compost and that sort of stuff. So some of the soil will be replaced, some of it won't. But it should be okay because I am on a normal feeding schedule where once a month inside, once a week outside, I feed the plants with liquid fertilizer. Yeah, right now I am using Miracle Grow, but next year I plan on switching over to Proven Winners liquid fertilizer. It's granular and then you mix it up yourself. Switching over to that so that way the plants can do really well, and we will see how that goes. Let's talk plants. Okay, so when it comes to my plants, the petunias were mostly from Proven Winners. They were either Supertunias or, they were Supertunias or Supertunia Vistas. So they look really nice. I did get some garden variety of petunias to put out there, but one of the things that I did get from Proven Winners was the Campfire. The Campfire plant flower, it died. I mean, like, it died quick and fast, and I don't know what happened with it, but yeah, it was its own thing. What could have happened is, with that infrastructure, I tried out a misting system that I hated. I hated the misting system. I'm not even sure I like the system that has these little sprayer nozzles. Yeah, I don't even really like those. What I've found is that the drip system works the best. I use a brown drip tube. It has emitters every 6 inches. I can wrap that around the plants and they do wonderfully. Everything else, it either oversoaks it? Yeah. It either gives too much water or not enough water. The misting system out. Completely and totally out. It was a mess. It did not give enough water to anything whatsoever. So yeah, never going to do that again. Let's talk about the other plants. One of the things which I did find was that the Supertunias did really well. As you can see, I do have a calcium issue, which I am correcting, and I'll correct that. So I found that with the calcium issue, use Tums. Put Tums on your soil and make sure that the soil gets that calcium in it, and it will correct all of your calcium issues. One of the calcium issues that I did have was blossom rot on my tomatoes. My, what were those? The plum tomatoes. They had blossom rot. So if you put calcium in that with that soil, it'll take care of that. I did not have any problems with pest this year, which I am super, super thankful for. But it looks pretty nice, and that's the nice part about this, is knowing what went wrong, what went right. The one thing which I did not like, this year Mom did not want any sweet potato vines in her plants. And, well, we sort of found out that that was sort of a mistake. Now, last year, I will admit, I put in 2 sweet potato vines per container. Next year I'll only do 1, but you need the green foliage. You need the green foliage in there with the flowers just to give it more of a balanced look, because the flowers look great. Don't get me wrong, they look great, but there is no foliage, there's nothing in there that makes it seem like they're plants. It just seems like a big mat of flowers, and I personally didn't like that. I like the green, I like the hanging of the vines, and even she agreed that, yeah, it looks better. What's interesting about her flowers on her table That Petunia on top, I didn't plant. I don't even think I planted it. I think I planted it last year, and it just wintered over in the garage. And when the campfire plant died and we went to go to put a new plant in there was something growing. And I'm like, well, see what it is. It was that Petunia. And I think that Petunia looks really good, and I have no idea what Petunia it is. The one just below it, I did grow from seed. I will not do that again, because only one of those seeds germinated. Yeah, because that was really interesting, is doing my plants from seeds. Most of the plants that I grew from seeds just didn't do well. I will try that again this year for some other things. But yeah, no, I'll probably buy more of my plants for the outside. And knowing what I'm going to go into this, knowing that it's clean out time, knowing that I need to focus more on springtime plants, because we had nothing in the spring. In fact, the plants sort of the whole beds and everything looked dead, like nothing was really happening. Until summer hit, then they all bloomed and everything, because the petunias are more of a summer plant. I did learn that I hate forget-me-nots. Don't like forget-me-nots at all. Shasta daisies did absolutely nothing. The foliage looks great. There were no blooms on them. So yeah, not going to bother with that next year. So what I'll do with those containers is those will have the sweet potato vines, and then the other flowers will be around them. Other than that, I think it did pretty well. I do have out there, I have my aloe out there, and I also have, oddly enough, a rosemary that I thought was going to die, and it didn't, because I found out I was overwatering my rosemary. Rosemaries can be watered very, very sparingly, and so the less water it got, the better it looks, so it's greening up. So this fall I will bring those both back in if it ever gets cold out here. I will clean up the tomatoes really, really soon. I should have done that today before this, but I wanted to show you what it really looks like, because I haven't had time to do a lot of things, and then every time I do get time, it becomes like 1,000 degrees outside. That's not much fun to be out there. But the things that I did figure out was, yes, the proven winners, petunias, loved them, absolutely loved them. Mom loves them. We need to have the sweet potato vines back in there for foliage. The vegetables and the herbs, I found that I did not eat very many cherry tomatoes, so we're going to not do the cherry tomatoes that next year. I did not use the pepper, that kind of pepper this year, so I'm going to switch those containers and put peppers, like a banana pepper, next year for those. Will I do the basil next year? I don't know. We'll have to think about that, because I didn't really use it. I have basil growing inside, so there was that. I absolutely forgot about the lemongrass. The lemongrass is wonderful. I will grow the lemongrass again next year. Did I use it? Not really, but it looks really nice, and so we will definitely grow that again. The tomato for next year, I'll probably stick with a plum tomato, maybe go with an heirloom tomato, maybe not, but there'll only be one tomato, one pepper. I think I'm going to go with more of like a salsa type garden. I do not like cilantro, so we won't go cilantro. I am looking at maybe starting some garlic. Wonder if you can grow garlic in containers. Will that winter over? We'll find out. So that will be something. I am also looking at maybe doing some bulbs in the containers, but that will come on. You'll hear more about that if it ever gets colder, as it gets colder. But yeah, the things that I definitely learned was that the infrastructure needs to get a little better, and it does each year. And then the plants have to be refined, as you do each year. But the thing to also do is switch your plants around so they get more nutrients, so the soil isn't taxed out. Replace as much of your soil as you can in a reasonable amount of area, because most of you who are in apartments or condos don't have the ability to just dump out all of the soil and get new soil in, because one of the things is, where are you dumping it at? Yeah. so I will do my best with that. But overall, I am very happy with this season. I think this season went really well. I think it looked good, and yeah, that was fun. I'd like to take this time to thank these wonderful people who like to watch me grow plants. If you want to support this channel and see me do bigger and better plant growing or gardening, and especially container gardening because that's where I'm living right now, you can go ahead and join Patreon, where you get these videos early. You also get a weekly behind the scenes vlog, and you also get random postings of what I'm doing in my life, like, yeah, random things. So you can join that, or you can become a channel member, or if you want to really help this channel, you can also like and share this video, which lets the YouTube algorithm know that this is a video which should be shared. And the big thing is, you will make mistakes with your planting. Learn from your mistakes. Change things up, do what you want to do, but plan ahead. And look back at what you did and see if it worked, if it didn't work, that sort of thing, so that way you know next year what you can do better or what you can do differently. Or maybe what you'll do exactly the same. I hope you enjoyed this and hope I get to see you again the next time you stop by.